it's lovely when you're told, oh, you've sold X many books in China or whatever it is. But when it comes back to the person
Yeah.
and the fact that something's resonated with them and perhaps it's made them change the way they think or feel a little bit, then your job is done. But yeah, I just want the books to be as accessible as possible. And yeah, to encourage kids to read. Parents out there, they do struggle to get kids to read, and especially boys. And so if there's something they'll sit down and read for pleasure, then that's a great thing. There's all the books, brilliant books that we're sort of, we're introduced to in school. But there's another thing just to read a book for pleasure. Like
Yeah.
my mum reads your books
Well, thank you very much. And
while drinking your wine, while
World domination.
eating food from Waitrose,
She's so
while
on
watching
brand.
you on television and listening to the radio at the same time.
We love her. We love her. Thank you very much. But the monsters, because obviously, we know as adults we know these monsters. But you're a dad. Like, was your son aware of all these monsters, or are you actually introducing these concepts of vampires and the Loch Ness monsters and things to kids?
I think maybe some kids don't know them all, but it's we had a great book actually that we were reading when he was smaller, because he's 10 now, which was called the A to Z of Monsters, and had all these monsters in it. It's a kind of thing you learn about some of them, don't you? There are some, like The Creature from the Black Lagoon is definitely a kind of B movie, isn't it, from the 50s?
Yeah.
And not wildly known, but at the start of the book, I introduce the reader to all these different monsters, because I'm doing a kind of spin on all these stories, so it's not exactly Dracula, it's not exactly Frankenstein. Frankenstein becomes Franken-Teddy, and the Loch Ness monster, I have a spin on that as well. But I don't think kids necessarily know them all, but it's the sort of thing they're interested in, isn't it? Monsters, because when you're a kid, you quite like being scared, within certain safe parameters.
Yes.
Like being chased around the sofa or something by a family member, or watching Doctor Who or whatever it is. And so I wanted really to sort of tap into that. But it's a pleasure. I love working. I love writing. And the amazing thing is that response you get from the parent who comes up to you in the park or something and says, I couldn't get my child to read until they read your books. And then they say, and they only read your books. And then I start to feel bad. Some other really good books out there. I think maybe they should read some other books. But this whole thing took me by surprise. You're right, it's 15 years, but God, I'd never have guessed it would be like this. And in your introduction, you were wrong, because you were forgetting about J.K. Rowling.
No. Apparently, you have dominated the charts more than her. That's what I read, that you had 78 weeks at number one in the overall book charts and 229 weeks at the children's charts, and no other children's writer has achieved this, unless they're not calling J.K. Rowling a children's writer. I don't know. I don't know.
I think, would you mind just following me around for a couple of days and spreading out some of these facts to people? Because if I say it comes over as a bit arrogant. I think Graham Norton, he's just over there. He's got a lot of these statistics. You may be interested.
So don't contradict me. Let me.
No, I don't know. It's nice, those things, but it all becomes meaningful when someone says something that the book meant something to them.
Yeah.
Like I was in the Lego store with my son, and a trans person came up and said, oh, your book, The Boy in the Dress, which is the first book I ever wrote, really helped me, come to terms with my identity. And I was like, and I hadn't figured, it would have that kind of impact. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. And I was really, really touched that they took the time to say that to me. So it's lovely when you're told, oh, you've sold X many books in China or whatever it is. But when it comes back to the person and the fact that something's resonated with them and perhaps it's made them change the way they think or feel a little bit, then your job is done.
And also that someone could have read that book 15 years ago. So, they're a fully grown adult now, yeah.
I'm getting adults coming up to me, but I used to read your books when I was little. Gangster Gran and all that, ain't it? Like, how old am I?